Domino is beautifully directed. How to direct someone else's script 101 yet again. How to make your film stand out compared to another director's. The Domino script. This philosopher's stone here. Imagine Fincher, Nolan, or just some random Hollywood or Western European studio hack directing this script. Even if the film ends up still being relatively good, in the case of maybe Fincher or Nolan, they become very, very distinct, and not as distinct as De Palma's film, not even close. This film is set in an alternate 2020 where the COVID-19 pandemic never occurred. How much would that change our history? Damn it. Oh yes, Jamie Lannister, Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. I met him at a supernova convention in Sydney maybe 10 years ago now. He was incredibly nice then. If I'd met him after a certain point in 2019, I'd have asked him about what it was like working with the greatest American director who isn't Wells, Cassavetes, Jost, or Rappaport. No, seriously, I would have asked him about what it was like working with De Palma, that I highly admired the film, enjoyed his performance in it, and maybe get him to sign a copy of the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, if I had one on me there. Melisandre, Carice Van Houten, she is also in this film. You'll see her in screen caps here eventually. Is Domino a good script? Not necessarily. Are the themes troubling and in bad taste? Oh, absolutely. Can it be perceived as an example of demonization of Islam? Of radical Islam? Of course. Who wouldn't want to condemn that sickness? But would it be too easy to just extrapolate that to an overall negative portrayal of Islam in general? It isn't uncommon for a film that attempts to criticize a certain Christian or Catholic individual, even, to just decide to condemn the religion in general. Hollywood loves doing this because they know Christianity won't aggressively respond, nowadays, obviously. And so I'm also skeptical when Islam is portrayed in these kind of scaffolds. I think other filmmakers, screenwriters think, oh, well, this is obviously not Islamophobic or bigoted, is because they just do what they might have done to a radical Christian sect for some decades now. In these sort of films, they attack the Christian sect, but, oh, it was enabled by mainstream Christianity, ooh, be it Mississippi Burning, Doubt, Spotlight, or The Mist. They are not so subtle, overt attacks on Christianity or Catholicism in general, without the bravery to just put it right out there. Pitiful. So when they just apply this to Islam too, yeah, I understand why some Muslims feel like they are being othered. Hollywood has been doing that to Christians for years. They were only more hesitant to depict Islam because certain sects of Islam were infamously barbarous, even compared with the Westboro Baptist Church, as we know. We're not demonizing Muslims or Islam. It's just like if we did it for a Christian subject, which... Oh wait, we were demonizing Christians and Christianity in general when we did that. Whoopsie. Something like Life of Brian was a critique of organized religion without being a critique of Christ, and obviously the Christians weren't the baddies in that example, the Womans rather. It was just a fairly light-hearted comedy about how silly contemporary British might have acted during the life and times of Jesus of Nazareth amongst a climate of turn of that millennium Roman Judea. Oh, Jose Luis Alcain's cinematography is superlative, some of the most crisp and creative, yet streamlined and mainstream of the entire 2010s. A superb accomplishment here. Naturalistic, yet overtly stylized. Oh, one of the most watchable supporting characters in a De Palma film is Guy Pearce's CIA agent, a terrific character role. And we have to praise Eric Ebuene as Ezra Tazi. He previously appeared in De Palma's Femme Fatale from 2002. And this character, it's a highly impressive performance of a multidimensional, fascinating character indeed. He's not a typical antagonist. It's almost like we've got two protagonists whose goals are similar and they're working side by side, yet in opposition to one another at the same time. It's a in that respect, it's a fairly good. That aspect of the script is decent, although partly because it's just executed quite well. The characters are extremely well defined and animated by the filmmaker De Palma. And on to some more problems now. You have to wonder if De Palma is getting off on some of this stuff, or just trying to be honest about how he perceives facets of the world. Either way, the depiction of Islamic radical terror is effectively disturbing cinematically, incredibly so. There's a particular scene which there's no screen caps of it in here. It's too much, frankly. But it appears to glory in the violence either too much or want the audience to feel a certain way, which, once they leave the cinema, I'm not sure the purpose of. It goes beyond thriller device fare and into a political statement, quite obviously, given the closing shots of the film. What was De Palma trying to say? What was the screenwriter trying to say? They either didn't think enough about it or just shrugged their shoulders, or they did, and are pushing some Clash of Civilizations angle, which, well, feels bizarre and tacked on in the context of a mostly familiar crime cop thriller. But I also have to wonder why the creators insisted on doing this. Is radical Islam the major issue it was during the 2010s? This is speaking from a 2024 perspective. To my understanding, the body of ISIS as a military unit has been mostly extinguished physically as far as them being a territory holding entity is concerned, but also the motivations for radical Islam appeared to shrink over time. One, the war on terror and America's violent activities upon the Muslim world decreased, and secondly, the promises of social media via Instagram influencers, political ideologues, financial grifters, and ISIS terrorists are less impactful or less taken for granted than they used to be. While its vile negative scum like Andrew Tate still have an audience, the backlash and the anti-social media be skeptical of social media cultural climate has counteracted a lot of the conning occurring on these harmful platforms. In my own observations, maybe I am wrong, but I am a pessimist who thinks more people are aware of the pitfalls of that world than they used to, and on a global scale as well. And let's face it, few individuals than before, after having seen the results of radical Islamic terror, believe that much can come of it for an individual person or for Islam in general, obviously. The people who suffered and still do suffer most from radical Islam are Muslims themselves in what we refer to as the Muslim world. The drone final set piece is well executed, but silly, maybe delightfully so, however. I do quite like and admire Domino as an act of filmic execution, however, I am hard-pressed being motivated to rewatch it. The actual content of the film is so unpleasant at times and mean-spirited, cynical, that I don't feel like sitting down with it much. I mean, at least 2007's Redacted has a political function, or one which is noble in its intent. Domino's confuses me to warn us about radical Islam or to demonstrate the power of visual media in the internet age, which Redacted did a lot more effectively, obviously, or just as visceral thriller fare. I don't know. As escapism, as thriller entertainment, it looks too far into the horrors of the real world, and as a treatise on the violence and extremism of certain religious terrorists, it is far too sensational at that too. Domino tries to make a point on the power of media, video streaming, again, all of these themes explored with much greater finesse in 2007's Redacted. I almost wonder if De Palma wanted to spicing up this otherwise stock-standard thriller with an idea from one of his previous films, which was underseen and overall somewhat underrated. Domino is in some respects a mixed bag, but where it shines, it is more evidence, not that we necessarily needed any, but De Palma is a cinematic visionary, and if we don't require more evidence, it is always more than welcome.